Numbers still climbing, but we will roll right into it. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for this public roundtable. This is kind of an outgrowth of some of the other work that we do, which I will explain in a minute. But we wanted to have a way to share with everyone kind of outside the program. So thank you all for joining us. Your hosts for today will be me, the Vice President of AI at Miles Partnership, and also the lead for AI Opener in North America. And I am joined by one of our supporters and longtime experts in the AI Opener program, Janette Roush, Senior Vice President of Innovation and Chief AI Officer at Brand USA. Welcome to you, Janette. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
Uh,
CA.
and congratulations on your appointment to the HSMAI Top 25 Extraordinary Minds of 2025.
And CA, congratulations to you
Why,
on
thank you.
your appointment to the next Top 25 Extraordinary Minds 2025. Are we going to
We
see you in New York City in
Yes,
February?
yes, I will be there, and actually, I will be there a couple days earlier. So I was meaning
Amazing.
to chat to you about that. So we'll do that after the show. Very exciting though, and an honor to do that, and also to
Same.
have the two of us on the stage at the same time. Fantastic. Okay, so as I said, this is kind of an outgrowth of a program that we do called AI Opener for Destinations. We've run this since January of 2024. It is a global collaborative exploration of generative AI technologies and implications for destination organizations. We've had over 100 participating organizations. We have hundreds of hours of content just in 2024 alone. I think we are up to uh, 48 hours roughly of content. You can advance the slide there, Andy. And each month in that program, we explore different topics at the intersection of AI and travel. And this has been a really exciting program for us. It's been a learning process for me, for our organization, for the participants that we have, and has been super valuable. But one of the challenges is because it is a subscription model and it is a sort of a networking kind of a thing. It's hard to share this externally. And so a couple of months ago, we had a really nice roundtable that covered some of the topics that we're going to cover today. And we had this idea that it would be really nice to do that as a public conversation. So that's what we are here to do today. I will introduce our participants in just a minute. Before I do that, though, the obligatory plug for our program for AI Opener 2026. So our North American program for AI Opener is different in kind of four key ways. We will have a broader scope, so it will be open to all travel organizations, not just destinations. So if you are a hotel or a attraction, activity, experience, pretty much anyone in the travel industry is welcome to join. It is a much more compact format, so we've learned a lot of lessons over the 2 years that we've been doing this. It'll be 5 sessions over 6 months. It is lower cost, which will make it easier for individuals and small organizations to join, and it will have a very practical focus with hands-on with some real AI tools that you'll be able to take away from that program. This is the sort of draft for what we're thinking about doing with those 5 sessions. So we'll have a super session in February that will be state of AI and travel. And we're going to have 2 builders clubs, and those builder clubs are going to be doing really express things. So the first one we think we're probably going to do Claude projects and skills. The second one we'll do MCPs, agents, and automation. And then we'll have 2 more super sessions, one in May that will be about search discovery and the death and the birth of SEO and long live SEO. And then we'll wrap up at the end of that in about August with a strategy session for AI. So those are subject to change. Obviously, a lot of things can happen. Just before this session, we were talking about how ChatGPT's new image model came out earlier today. And those of us who have been doing webinars today haven't had time to try it out. So hopefully some of you have. And then just real quickly, the pricing for this. So one kind of new thing for 2026, as I said, we wanted to be practical. And so what we're going to do is include a Claude team account for each subscriber for that 6-month period of the program. And that will give us the ability to actually work on things together with Claude. We will be able to share projects, we'll create skills, we'll even create MCPs together, and you'll actually walk away with things that are real tangible inside Claude that you can use for your own organization. So that is the pricing there. That is the QR code that will take you to the form to sign up. And signing up for that, then you will get a credit card form to fill that out. So hope to have you join us in our growing community of AI and travel professionals. And without further ado, I will move on to introduce our panelists today. All of our panelists are current AI Opener participants. So I would like to welcome Christine Felton, the Director of Content and Digital Marketing at Visit Austin, Maria Sidoti, the Director of Digital Marketing at Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau, and Stefan Hawes, Vice President of Global Marketing at Destination Vancouver. Thank you, all three of you, for joining us today. Really looking forward to this discussion. We are going to cover three different topics today. We will talk about AI roadmaps and implementation. We're going to talk about AI-driven search and destination visibility, and then we'll talk about what's next. And we will have a few minutes at the end to ask questions. So please use the QA panel. I think there's a slide for that. There you go. So just please use the QA. We will do our best to answer all of those questions. So put those in there as you have them, and we will have a few minutes at the end to address those questions. So again, thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you for our panelists. Janette, take it away with our first question.
God, we've been doing Zoom for how long? And I still don't know the unmute button. Hello, everyone. We are starting off by talking about AI roadmaps and the implementation process. And sometimes I don't feel like I have the clearest implementation process at Brand USA. So I will be very curious to hear from each of the panelists. What does that look like? Like how do you get from no plan whatsoever to clear direction? Or at least what's the next step in your direction? Because I think that's kind of my personal approach. And so, Christine, I would love to start with you on that. Like, how did the Visit Austin process begin, and how do you know what you're going to tackle next?
Yeah, great question. I don't know if I'm ready to say that we have a clear roadmap or clear process. Like we just talked about, things are literally changing on a daily or hourly basis. So, what we thought a clear roadmap was 6 weeks ago is probably very different from what it looks like today. But our team, our process started really with just trying to soak up a lot of information, attending, at least at the leadership side, attending, all of the webinars and conference sessions, soaking up as much information as possible, not just from within our industry, but from, other industries, what they're doing. And then, we put together a cross-departmental task force in about February of this year. And so we've got representatives from all different departments in the organization. And it was an application process. So, looking for folks who had varying levels of skills and backgrounds and interests with AI and different tools. Including hand selecting a few folks, HR, IT, a few folks that we needed, some decision makers in the room. And we were really intentional about making sure that it was people who really wanted to be there and really wanted to push the organization forward. And we wanted to have people at different levels of the organization as well. Another thing for us in terms of roadmap, we've landed on developing what we're calling a vision. We have a vision statement, and then we've developed a set of core principles as well. So for our organization, instead of a hard and fast document with hard guidelines, we've developed some core principles around helping us be able to make decisions at all levels in the organization, with hopes that it will have enough flexibility to be able to flex with the organization and with the world as we change.
That's fantastic. Do you feel like you have, like, I talk a lot about needing both a top down and a bottom up approach. Do you feel like that's what you have in Austin, that you have kind of the guidance from leadership, but also you're engaging with people on the ground?
That's definitely the intention. And I will say, you were even a part of the conversation when it came to getting our leadership team, into the tools. We had Janette come in. I think it was probably like your third week, maybe with Brand USA. You were very fresh, and came in and we hosted a workshop with our leadership team, and we invited our boards as well, about a little bit over a year ago. Because we found that at least on the leadership side, we knew that a lot of our staff was already using AI tools in various capacities, but we were not as clear on how leadership was feeling, or what they were doing. And so getting them in there hands-on, testing things in a safe environment and a safe space to be able to ask questions, I think really broke that door open for us.
Yeah, I see Greg Oates is on the call, so hi to Greg. And he's somebody who's really pushing the idea of you have to get your board involved. Like this can't just be a little siloed off to the side project. It really is. It's a full DMO, it's a full company experience, and leadership has to be involved and your board has to be on board. So thank you so much for sharing that. Maria, I'd like to pose that same question to you. Like in Miami, how did this all come together? How did it kind of get started? What does it look like today in terms of implementing AI? And would you say you have a clear roadmap?
So no, we don't have a cleared roadmap as of yet, but we have been our COO is very involved in AI and has really embraced it. And so first it's been about educating everyone about the use of AI, and people started doing their thing throughout the company. And right now we're still working on our roadmap, which is going to include a governance side of things for staff. We're considering our stakeholders for sure. Our board is very important to us, especially, being a DMO, helping us make decisions. And so it's important that everyone is educated about the use cases that we're using. And it's really about staff being comfortable using the tools too. So there are many tools out there, as we know, and everyone dabbles in different tools depending on what their area of expertise is within the organization. So some people might use one chat program for images and video creation, and another side of the house is using it for content. My team uses it very much for our website, call to actions, headlines, editing landing page copy, things like that. So, but we're still working through our governance and nothing is finalized. Yeah, everything's changing.
Oh, tell me about it. And I
Yeah,
think it's reassuring for people to hear that you can get started without necessarily knowing what the finish line looks like, because it does change every minute, right?
yeah.
Stefan, I'll then come over to you because I know in Vancouver you are doing stuff that's like it feels in some ways more advanced than like what I'm able to pull off. Like you've built your own chatbot for your website uh, in order to feed destination information about Vancouver to your site visitors. But rather than focusing just on that, which I think is super cool, I hope we come back to, what did the start of your process look like? And then how is that roadmap developed over time?
Uh, the roadmap's interesting. Yeah, we have the things we're doing over here that are sort of how we're trying to connect with travelers. But then there's the organizational roadmap of how we as an organization are going to focus on using AI. And I don't know if it's a clear direction, but we certainly do have a roadmap. And it's not a particularly sexy process, but yeah, we set up an AI council involving key members from across the organization who are interested in AI's potential. We set out defining our terms of reference, what we're trying to accomplish, what our vision was, what's the scope, what's our decision-making model. We created the always very exciting and sexy subcommittees. And but it's been very valuable. It was a good discussion because we wanted to make sure that the council was supporting AI progress, not becoming a bureaucratic layer that actually would stand in the way of AI progress. And I think that was one of the biggest things, there's always conversation about, well, does everybody have to run everything through this council? Does everything have to happen? Trying not to be a barrier to people. Once we sorted out how we were going to work, one of the first questions was then, what are we going to do? And that's what really built the roadmap is, we started off with this process, and now we have a roadmap that does have 5 key areas on it. It's got education, tech and tools. So what do we bring into the organization? Data governance, communication, and measures and reporting. But also just to make sure everyone feels better about things. We met just yesterday for a year in review. And I think the biggest critique of ourselves is that there's things on our roadmap that were put in there, many months ago that are not making the speed of progress that we would like to see within the organization. Because, nobody, well, I shouldn't say nobody because I'm talking to Janette, but very few of us have people dedicated 100% of their time to AI and to driving these things forward. So it happens off the side of everyone's desk. So we don't make as much progress as we would like.
Was everybody tackling the education piece at your DMO, like in just a quick sentence? And I'm sure, like for all 3 of you, AI Opener is a piece of that. But are there other things you are doing to bring the whole staff on board, Stefan?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's been one of our biggest challenges. Clearly, we set it aside as a thing, and our HR department, working with some of our team members, did a lot of research trying to find a really good education program for us. Looking anywhere from sort of independent consultancies all the way through to like a KPMG that would come in and run a whole program for us. Some well-known people in the AI industry, hiring them to come in and do a day session with us and getting prices quoted up to $75,000 for a day session, things like that, which is just, not realistic for most DMOs. Frankly, we have not succeeded in finding things that we thought would be relevant enough to us as a DMO that would kind of speak our language and be productive for us moving forward. So we've recently just made the decision that we're going to do training ourselves internally. So, myself and a couple of other members of the team are scheduled to do training sessions in Q1 of next year. And we've been putting together our curriculum, and, it's a great approach and I'm going to enjoy it, but it also is tough because it takes a lot of time there's other things on my agenda other than just training the rest of the organization, but I think it's probably the best thing we can do. And we were not making enough progress on education the other way.
Maria, how about for you?
I would have to piggyback on what everybody's saying. I think education is the most important thing, and educating, everyone on the team. Our task force is, getting input from all levels, just like they are in the other destinations that I'm hearing. And we're trying to ease concerns of being leery of using AI with fear of being replaced. We want everybody to feel comfortable using the tools. And so it's all about really, first education. And like I said, our roadmap is still a work in progress. So we don't have that ironed out yet, but we're starting with education. And I imagine once we have our roadmap worked out with the governance included, then we're going to start going and training team by team for their use cases.
And how about you, Christine?
Yeah, I think on our team, I mean, I would echo Stefan's sentiment that this has been it's been a little bit more difficult on our team, and we will probably end up doing something similar to both teams, where our internal task force will probably kind of take on some more of the work when it comes to education, just out of concerns around, budget and as mentioned, finding the resources that are really relevant to the work that we do. So that was a part of the vision when we created the task force. Our AI task force was that each departmental representative would assist with kind of building out a training plan or an education plan for their departments, just based on their expertise in the specific workload and workflow. We do have a set of, owned tools. We're a Google workspace. And so we have access to, Gemini and additional Google tools. And so we've got a list that our IT department has presented to the staff about approved tools And so we're really at this point just trying to make sure that everybody in the organization feels like they have the freedom and ability to be able to get creative in those tools and learn by testing. We're very much in a test and learn kind of space. And then from there, role specific, the way that we would select any new tool or work with any new program or vendor, we're leaning on the departments to do what they do best and to be able to vet those internally.
Yeah, I'll add before turning it back over to CA that I'm at Brand USA. We do, ongoing trainings that I lead about once a week, not quite once a week. But I've also started working with individual departments because I want us to move from everybody feeling comfortable and familiar with AI for their own personal use into what does a departmental workflow look like. And so it's turning into, every 3 weeks or so, meeting with the HR team, meeting with the government affairs team, and kind of just talking through in those really small groups what's working, what's not, what are some new ideas to throw at this. So it's definitely nobody has this figured out yet. We're all still in the process of learning. So CA, do you want to move on to the next section now?
Yep, that'll be great. Thank you very much. I think there's some really interesting observations there in how, I think how we thought we were going to implement these things in the beginnings, turned out to be very different, and where we all are today is, probably a different place than where we expected in those internal enablements for the organizations. But, as you say, we're all learning as we go. So really interesting answers there. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to our second topic now, which is about search and discovery. So AI-driven search and destination visibility. And so I'm going to ask each of you to answer a question. We'll start with a question that is just about the kind of impact of zero-click searches on your organic traffic and what kind of things you're seeing. And then we'll move into talking about what kinds of actions you are taking as a result of that. So Christine, why don't we'll just keep going kind of back and forth. We'll start with you. And why don't you talk a little bit about your organic impact and kind of how you're thinking about that as an organization?
Yeah, this has been a huge topic for the organization over the last year and a half. At this point, year over year, we're seeing about a 34% decrease in organic traffic to the website. And we're seeing about a 15% drop in total users. So, that I think for me really goes to show the impact of organic search. And, we're a heavy content driven website. We are continuing to produce new and updated content 6 and 7 days a week. So, organic traffic was our bread and butter for a long time. And so, we're trying to, we've certainly rethought and reinvested different ways to get folks to our website. And with that, of course, comes changes to, other on-site engagement metrics, goal conversions. But at the same time, with the difficulty around, the drop in organic traffic, I'm also thinking about AI overviews and LLM traffic overall as just another opportunity to reach visitors, and it may be happening, off our owned channels. We may not have the kind of visibility that we want. I would love to have more visibility into, the brand's impact. And where our content is being surfaced if it doesn't result in a referral. But at this point, I think that's where we're at, and we're still considering it as continued opportunity for our content to reach the visitors just in a new way.
Excellent. Same question. We'll move on to Maria.
So thank you, CA. Our traffic is down as well since the AI overview launched in May of 24. Our traffic has been down. And I say, if you want to be referenced in an AI overview, you still have to have your content updated, fresh, authoritative. So don't give up on that side of the house. That's very important, because if we stop generating that content, they're going to have nothing to reference in the AI tools. So even though our traffic is down, I think it's going to be more about finding new KPIs to report on. It might not be visitor sessions anymore. That might not be the thing. Organic was also our bread and butter for a long time. And, the more, of course, our marketing team puts dollars into trying to drive traffic, the less organic traffic we're getting, because it's, that seesaw effect. But I would say just keep doing your content and make sure it's updated on a regular basis. Stay authoritative. We have a very heavily content cited website as well. And maintaining all of that content is a lot of work. But it's necessary, and I don't think that's going away at all anytime soon. So,
Excellent. And Stefan?
See it. I did a presentation a few months back in an APEC conference. I called it "Welcome to the In-Between," because we can see where things are going longer term, but we still have to plan and deliver for where things are at today. In my opinion, we're headed medium term, and I think 2 to 5 years towards what we've been referencing as Google Zero, a point where there's pretty much no traffic coming from our partners at Google. It's only going to accelerate as they continue to roll out new tools and more ways to get away from driving traffic to our sites. So, at some point there might still be some traffic coming to our website, but it's going to drop precipitously, and the value of that traffic is going to be questionable and maybe of the lower value traveler to us. The website is an information resource for travelers we don't think is going to be needed, but the website as an information resource to train and inform the AIs may still be very paramount. So, we're going to see the financial model for lower funnel media and OTAs really come under strain as well. I think that makes sense because of the way that a lot of our AI tools are trying to move into the travel space. I think it's quite funny how whenever they present a new capability, 75% of the time, they present it as a way to book travel. Like that's their favorite use case, is to show how people are going to make booking travel so much easier in their future life. Even though most people don't spend that much of their life actually booking travel. Our role as content creators is going to have to shift from website content to web content distributors. So we'll continue to make content, but it's really all about making sure that content on our site is in the right spots and developed properly, but also where it's existing outside of our website, that's also reinforcing the tools. We've put together a GEO task force. I still don't like the term, but within my team, whose first goal is to establish measurement metrics. I think that's the other challenge that I still have, is how do I actually evaluate the effectiveness of our content in influencing the AIs to talk about us, and how do I make sure that the right things about Vancouver are showing up in the AI overviews, and how do we measure that, particularly as personalization is key to these tools, and they're becoming more and more personalized, and every answer is unique and different. So that is a key project that we're working on now. It's just determining measurement and verifying where we're at. Our colleagues at Destination Canada have been doing a lot of work on this as well. So I think we're going to try and partner as much with them as we can to try and create a cohesive approach to GEO across the country.
Excellent. That actually leads right into my next question, which is about what kinds of tools or mechanisms are you using to kind of understand how you are showing up in these platforms? And we'll just go Stefan and then back to the other direction. So you started to answer that a little bit, but
I think the answer is clear from my last answer, which is I haven't got him yet. As I look at what various partners and there's lots of agencies out there that are selling their latest technique for measuring effectiveness. I haven't bought into any of the tools. Some of my partners at DMOs across the country are doing manual verification, like, hey, I'm going to go out every month and see how we're performing about 15 different areas. And that seems to me to be as viable as a lot of other things. I know some of our partners, when they run campaigns, want to evaluate how well that campaign has been picked up within areas like AI overview. And then they reverse it out to find out, what are the tools that drove that? What were the sources of that information? And then shifting their focus for future initiatives into those areas that they've defined as good sources for GEO. But I have yet to find a tool that we think, we've evaluated many of them that are out there, including things like, SEMrush and stuff like that we already had within our organization.
Sure.
And I don't think we found a tool that we think answers the question to us very well as far as how are we performing from a GEO standpoint.
Because why do you think that is? Because the methodology just isn't mature enough, or because it's too diverse to measure?
Because it's really, yeah. No, it's yeah. I mean, there's lots of organizations that build things. It's hard, right? Because
sure.
Each answer is different and personalization is different. And so, the answer that CA gets should be very different than the answer that Stefan gets when he inputs a question. And even so far as, determining as an organization, what are our priority areas of what we want to be impacting? Are there 20 or are there 3 key messages that we want to be able to drive?
Sure.
We can deal with that over there, but I don't think we found a tool over here that answers it with the degree of specificity that I think we would like to find. I expect maybe there will be some people throw some things into the Q&A at the bottom that we should go and research, and I'd encourage people to throw it in there if you've sorted it out.
Excellent. Thank you, Stefan. All right, Maria, same sort of question. Like, how's your organization thinking about, tools to measure this kind of thing?
Yeah, so right now we're not. We're kind of in the same boat. There's no way we don't have a tool in-house already that would measure this kind of sentiment or chat bot impressions that we're getting or stuff. So what we do is we audit our content internally. Our content team will go to chatbots. All of us go to our own, so we're all getting different answers, just as Stefan mentioned, because these LLMs are all learning our quirks and our quims and our ways, right? When they give us answers. So we do ask questions and see if it's referencing our content on our site for the pillars that we want to be authoritative on. So of course, there's a big gamut of content that you could, have on your website as a DMO, everything from, things to do and places to stay and restaurants and events. And so you have to pick what pillars do you want to concentrate on, because you want to be the authoritative source for that content. So like I said before, if you want them to use your website as a source, the only way to find out if they're doing it right now is, I think, to go and check them each out and see what they're referencing and how they're referencing your site in answers, if at all. I use Google Analytics, but ChatGPT, being the first one out of the house, is so far ahead of the game from the other players that I don't find it very informational or valid as a source, because I feel like, depending on who you are, you have a tool that you like. So even though ChatGPT was the first one out, that doesn't mean that people aren't going to Perplexity and to Claude and Copilot and asking questions as well. We're getting them referenced even less there, but they're still using the tools, and it doesn't invalidate the tool. It's just that ChatGPT was the first one out of the gate. So they're driving the most traffic to our site right now, as far as I can see. But
Sure.
yeah, so
They're also a lot better at doing the attribution on it than some of the other ones are. So
Yeah, I think we lost you.
that's because I was talking and I was on mute. But let me say, whatever I did say was amazing. I'm not going to repeat it because I wouldn't be able to match it, but it was like mind blowing. You guys would have just been like, wow, that was crazy. Okay. Thank you, Maria. Let's move on to Christine.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know that I have a ton to add to this. I think we're all kind of in the same boat. We're pretty limited in what we can see, what we can trust. We are definitely paying attention to AI referral traffic. Like Maria mentioned, ChatGPT is like blowing everybody else out of the water, and seems to be more consistent in how they're sourced. Otherwise, I can scroll through 50 pages and there's 5 or 6 different, slightly different ways that Perplexity traffic comes in. So it's a little bit messy and a little bit manual there too. Looking at the pages that they are driving traffic to, we tend to see that our top most referred pages from LLMs tend to be events content. So, I think we're kind of in a unique position as DMOs to be able to win. In the event space, we, at least for our organization, our events content always performed really well. We've got a great full calendar. We've partnered with the city so that they're sourcing their arts and heritage and history and music events through our calendar as well. And as destinations, we own probably the largest breadth of types of events throughout the city. Not own, but we at least get to house all the data there. Versus, event organizers maybe only have 1, 10, 15 events. So we've got thousands a year. So we've seen a lot of success there. And then outside of that, I mean, I tend to see like really specific pages are doing well. I think AI overviews and ChatGPT can really easily recreate that first-time visitor content, that top things to do content. But when people are looking for something really specific, that's where the DMO local knowledge really comes into play. So those are some places that I think we've been winning, even if it feels like it's on a smaller scale than it used to be. And I will add to just some back to what Stefan was mentioning about auditing some of those vendors. We've gone through the same conversations with a lot of the big players, and what we had seen as we kind of pressed them a bit harder on what the methodology is. In a lot of cases, they're trying to show brand references based on your organization name, and for us, Visit Austin gets really messy. And so they've even told us, like, this works really well for a Coca-Cola, but for an organization whose name is the city, we don't think it's going to be very clear data.
Yeah, definitely what I have observed. Also because of that sort of overlap. So Janette, I'm interested in your opinion on this same sort of topic about search and destination. How is Brand USA thinking about that? And, do you have tools or approaches or frameworks that you're using to measure?
Well, kind of to Christine, the comment, when your name is Brand USA, it's how are you, it's like we've had conversations as well with vendors about this challenge. And the issue is representing the entirety of the United States. Do you only focus on how the United States show up, or do you think of this, Brand USA as a bag that has 50 states in it and territories? Or are we a bag full of a bunch of cities inside of a bunch of states? And which part should we be measuring and monitoring, and what change can we actually affect in that? So, like, part of our approach for all of this was when we redesigned our website and launched America the Beautiful back in June. We have a chatbot integration throughout that site with Mindtrip, so that a lot of the content isn't necessarily living on the site. It's generated on the fly through all of the integrations that Mindtrip has. And of course, we're working with Miles on this entire project. So and I know Miles has a vendor, and I'm blanking on the name of the vendor now, for kind of those AI search insights.
Squash.
Yeah, and I'm like,
silly name, but
silly
Squash.
name. I look at the reports and I'm not like, wow, I understand now the impact that the site is having, right? Because I don't know that anyone has this figured out yet. Somebody asked in the Q&A if we're monitoring our own GEO, isn't this a bit like grading our own homework? And I think it's good to know, like, you should have a sense of what is coming up about your organization in these, in generative search. But what are you going to do? Like, you're not going to report back on that to the board. So you should understand, so that you understand at a high level, what is AI doing with your content in your organization. But it's not going to be valuable in AI. Now I have a new KPI that I can report to the board, because again, yeah, absolutely, that's grading your own homework. So for me, I'm focusing less on how can the homework be graded, because this isn't necessarily a KPI that Brand USA has, the way that when I was at New York City Tourism, for reporting to the board, how many website clicks did every single campaign get?
Right.
That's not how our reporting process works. And so
Yeah.
I am focused on what's the next thing. And the bet that I am making is that it's going to be taking your content and making sure it is consumable wherever people are. And I think that's part of like that Disco browser launch that
Mm.
Google did just a day ago. I mentioned that in the chat. This browser will take all of the browser tabs that you have open and use them to create on the fly a brand new website that answers whatever question you're trying to answer with just all of that information. We have to get used to the idea of whatever work we put into designing beautiful websites, that the design part might not be as relevant as what is on the site. What is that content? And so I'm betting that model context protocol becomes the way that information is extracted from your website and brought into language models and brought into those AI overviews. And that would, in a way, allow you to track what is happening.
Sure.
That the AI, AEIOU overview stuff, like,
Sure. Yeah.
is
EIEIO.
untrackable.
Yeah.
We're trying to track it, and why?
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be
Well,
wrong, it's going to change. So let's
yeah.
let's look at the next goalpost.
I
It,
just
it,
want to add to that you're saying to grade your own homework. It's kind of like grading your own homework, but we're not grading it for performance anymore. We're grading it for exposure. So now we're
Yeah,
trying to measure the exposure that that work is getting, that content is getting. It's not how that page is performing on our site. It's how much exposure are we getting with that content on our
sure.
site. That's
yeah,
what it
And
is.
and I think it's important to understand, to have a sense of what that is. But it is, and I should say, like, we've evaluated lots of different tools. I really like the people over at Scrunch, but some of the things that have been raised here are complicated. Where destinations are in a weird business. So we have the name of a place, that place shows up all over the place as a brand. It's not a distinct brand in that way. And then we don't have the same KPIs, and our competitors don't work the same, right? Like, we can run a search, run a scan that says what are our competitors for, like, restaurants in a state, but our competitors are other states. Of course they don't have information about restaurants in our state. Like, there's all of these weird sort of competition things that make it a lot harder to do it, versus if we were Starbucks, or Nike or something else. Okay, I think this makes a really nice transition from here. We're going to go into our third topic, so I will turn it back to you, Janette, to lead that. We'll be talking about what's next.
well, let's start off with AI agents, because I thought 2025 was going to be the year of agents, and only somewhat did that turn out to be true. And I think part of the issue is there's so many definitions of what an agent is. Like, is an agent when AI takes over your browser and uses your mouse? Is an agent when you're using deep research? Like, raise your hand if you are currently using deep research inside of your preferred AI tools. So deep research, if you're on the webinar, like, give it a test drive. It's an extra button that you press inside of the context window for the tool that you are using, and AI will spend half an hour looking at hundreds of sources in order to better answer your query, and then it writes like a business case using that information to answer your question. So if you're doing competitive analysis, it's really helpful. And that's an example of agentic AI. But I'd say probably the example people think of when you talk about AI agents are AI enabled workflows. So are any of the three of you using N8N or Zapier or another tool like that to create agentic workflows for your DMO?
Nope.
No.
See, none of us are behind because I was going to, like, I spent Thanksgiving teaching myself how to build in N8N. It was not a DMO workflow, it was a personal workflow, and I was going to show everyone how it worked. And then it broke the morning of my demo, and I had to cancel it. And I'm like, that's AI for you. So if you're on the call, like, you're not behind. We're all in some version of the same place in our AI journeys. I'll take it to the next question, and I'll start with you, Christine. What use cases are you the most curious about when it comes to working with AI?
Yeah, I think again, we're still very much in kind of like a test and learn, and in this case, a bit more of a watch and learn situation. I think what we are seeing, some of the big brands, partnerships, Expedia, a lot of those big partnerships, I think they're interesting, and we're still trying to figure out where exactly we will fit in those in the future. So, I'm kind of watching to see where's the opportunity to move people through the funnel in maybe a more complete sense from the destination, from the DMO. Is that where people want to be doing that? Can we, in a natural way, fit ourselves into that experience? I think especially around conversion for our audience, and then outside of that, from I guess that's an external point of view, and then also internally, where else can we optimize our internal workflows?
That makes total sense. Stefan, what are the use cases that you're looking for in Vancouver?
We currently have a process going on with all of our teams to be identifying use cases and determining which ones are able to be implemented at a local individual level, which ones need organizational support to try and drive forward on. And I think it's fantastic because just last night I was in a conversation with a team that were kind of digging into their use cases, and they turned to me and said, "Stefan, is this possible?" And I said, "I don't actually think what you're suggesting is possible with AI, but please put it down and maybe we can make it happen, because we don't know what's possible yet. We don't know what we can and can't do. The ones we do know we can do, like, taking a routine task of analyzing data and writing a report and sending out that weekly thing to everybody. Like, yeah, that's a no-brainer. That can easily be done, and we should be doing that. But for me, it's much more exciting about this idea of like the whole new areas that we haven't really dug into yet, that are going to enable us to create entire new use cases. I'm most focused on changing behavior within the travel booking process, and so Google's demo of how they will share competitive rates from hotels directly, along with rates from OTAs. I think these are the things, just back on your prior comments about agents, is much more interesting. As an example, I recently had a vision of creating a single page website that would just be an avatar that you could talk to that would act as a travel agent, and would be able to just be like a thing that you could have a conversation with. Not for any real business purpose, but I just thought it would be interesting to see if I could make it. And so I gave it expertise about the destination by scraping our site, and I had Gemini's 2.5 knowledge to fall back on, and it's using hotel beds and Duffel and Viator for product information. And the avatar is a grizzly bear that will talk to you and engage in full conversations. I've been working on this evenings and weekends, and I'm dorky like that. So I saw people challenging your Thanksgiving thing there. And
exactly.
There you go.
You get in the rabbit hole and it sucks you in.
Exactly. But I wanted to see if I could build this. But for me, the amazing thing here is that I had no idea how to do any of the things that I've done. I did not know how to do a single thing like this. I've run digital agencies across my career, and yet I've never been the guy that was actually building it. And I didn't know how to set up a vector database to hold the scraped information so the site could rely on RAG to deliver answers. I didn't know how to write the thousands of lines of code that is now turned into after, evenings of bug fixing. I didn't know how to create an avatar. I mean, nobody knew until the last 6 months on a single page site. So my point being, I think there's so much exploration that we can have, and I think there's use cases that we can come up with that we're currently being enabled that we haven't even considered. And I think that's what's really exciting over the next year, is to figure out how can we supercharge our organization through these things that most of us never even knew we could do before.
Yeah, it's remarkable. Just yesterday, I was showing someone on our communications team how to use Claude Code, because he's like, Janette, I know you could have vibe coded a website to house all of your webinar content. Was that hard? And I'm like, it's not hard, but it is scary because you do it in the terminal on your Mac. And just the word terminal, I'm like, terminal. I was a theater major. What is this? And I just sat down with Claude and was like, hey, show me how to install this. Show me what the next step is. And then you're just having a conversation with Claude Code inside of the black box on your computer instead of a pretty, UI. And once you get over that hump, and it was the same thing. And he's like, when you said terminal and that it was scary, he's like, I Googled it. And then I was like, oh shit, that is scary. And then
Absolutely.
you get
I'm
started.
digging deep into my terminal and VS Code and pulling all these pieces together. I don't know how to do this.
No, I'm not a programmer. But we figure it out because AI is there as the backstop to explain it to us. And now our communications team has this, pretty online hub that's, where is everybody in the world on a given day, and what next conferences are they attending? What's the next fam trip we have to be ready for? And just stuff that otherwise lives in an Excel document you never look at. So Maria, I don't want to shortchange you.
Or it would be a 6 month to a 1 year process to get built externally or through an IT team. And
right,
you just did it. It's crazy.
Right. Mm-hmm. So Maria, what are the use cases with AI that you are most curious or most excited about exploring?
So we've seen AI change the way people plan a trip of where they want to travel and how they want to travel. I'm curious to know if we can intentionally influence those responses with a traveler who's asking questions. I also would want to know, instead of just promoting places, if AI could maybe say things like, if you visit Miami, here's a way to do it with the least amount of impact, and stuff like that. Can we guide it to give different kinds of answers than the normal, whole overpopulated, highly trafficked areas that everybody goes to when they visit Miami? If we wanted to disperse them, could we train a AI bot to answer a question differently? I also would want to know, I'm curious to know, when would it not be, a good time to use AI? Like, when is not a good time? So we're all learning how we can use it and do different things with it, but when should we not? When should we depend on the human side of the house? And I think that's an important side to consider. I think, let me see, I have some notes here. So I think the most important is when we shouldn't use AI, but I think also, like, planning at scale. We just launched, we have the Satisfy chatbot on our site. We got them from one of the AI opener sessions, and they just developed their bot to be more conversational. But we've limited it to answer any questions, only sourcing the answers from our website. So the bot can't go outside of our website to source any answers for questions that are put in it right now. We're not letting it do that. But I think that's evolving as well. And when should we let it go outside? Should we ever? Miami's one of those controversial cities that, you know, with the dolphins and the
Mm-hmm.
hurricanes and all of that stuff, sentiment doesn't work for us either. So monitoring sentiment just isn't the way to go. I feel like it's going to be a play with content, and you know, I can't say I think content is still king. It's been king for a long time. I think it's still king, and I don't think that's going to change. So I think depending on how you write your articles, how you structure them, are you doing question Q&As? Are you doing that kind of content to answer questions that people are asking chatbots out there so that you're surfaced? I think that's important. But really, I think the most important thing is to learn when we shouldn't be depending on AI.
Good
Amen.
points. All right. Thank you very much for those. We do have a couple of questions, so we're going to try to do these. This is our lightning round. So I'm going to ask some questions, and you will all get short answers. Short answers only. So we'll start with some of the easy ones. There were several questions in there about which tools you were using. So this is a question for Stefan and Janette. So just very quickly, tell us what tools you were using to build those various projects that you were talking about. I think you kind of answered this, but let's just do
Yeah.
the lightning round
Claude
answer.
Code. And I do a lot of work in all of the frontier models. So ChatGPT, Claude, and Gemini. Gemini has been my favorite as of late.
Interesting. Stefan?
Yeah, I answered in the chat, but I mean, Gemini 3 has been my co-pilot along the way to enable all of these things. And then it has built infrastructure, not surprisingly, using Google tools, and uses Gemini 2.5 to do the development. It's really interesting arguments with Gemini about which versions of Gemini exist in the world, actually, because it very often comes and tells me that Gemini 1.5 is the most recent version, and then we have to have arguments about whether it itself exists. So really strange.
Yeah,
yeah. And then
definitely.
the avatar was DID.
Okay.
That's the company I use for the avatar. But back to the point earlier, these things get expensive if you start to get a lot of video generated by them in real time.
Absolutely true. Yeah, it's one of the interesting things about models. By definition, their knowledge predates their own existence. So they don't have really good visibility on what they do. And then just as an aside, if you haven't tried Google's anti-gravity IDE, it's actually really interesting, especially if you're focused on using Gemini. Okay, next lightning round question is about KPIs. So if we're sort of moving away from organic traffic, what kinds of KPIs are each of you using? Starting with Christine.
We just moved away from externally reporting on site traffic and page views, and we're focused more on engagement rates at this point. Still watching to see how that does, and we just launched a new website a month ago, which is it's kind of a wild time to be building a new website. We've actually seen page views, not page views, users have been up over the month before, which was unexpected. So we're still figuring it out.
Very
But
good. And
that's our number one.
Excellent. Real quick, Maria.
Yeah, we're still figuring it
KPIs.
out too.
Okay.
Our sessions are down and our visitors are down, so we're not reporting on those anymore as well. And we too are looking at engagement. We look at time on site. I'm also trying to do exposure in the AI overviews as a KPI.
Excellent. And Stefan.
We are still tracking organic traffic. We got devastated because we launched our new website last October, and that might have been very bad timing to launch an entirely new web property. But we are also watching one of the interesting ones we're looking at is how much traffic are we getting by the AI bots as they come to search. We have a theory that if we are providing valuable content, that we will be able to increase that traffic and that volume over time. And so we're tracking that to see if we can see increases. And yeah, I think that could be an interesting one for us.
Excellent. All right, we are at time. So I will pause here to say thank you to all of you. So thank you, Christine and Stefan and Maria and Janette for joining us today. Really appreciate it. Thanks all of you for joining us and listening to our roundtable here. We hope you will join us in 2026 for AI Opener. And I guess have a happy holiday. That kind of does it for us today. Thank you very much for joining us.